Greetings and welcome everybody. My name is Sarkis. I'm the director of New York HempLab. I'm here with my colleague, Jason Klimek, special counsel, Barclay, Damon, licensed law practice. Here to present on the Cannabinoid Hemp Regulations Workshop, technically the last part of the MRTA work read through that we started many months ago. So this is kind of a big deal for us. Jason and I are very excited. And we are happy you chose to join your two favorite folks who love to read the law. Maybe you're the only folks who like to read the law out loud. But yeah, the point, we're doing this so we can provide transparency and a very digestible interpretation of the new rules and regulations for the upcoming and emerging cannabinoid hemp market. And we know that this ties into adult use through the regulations of the MRTA and the Cannabis Control Board. So it's all connected here. I bring my insight as a small seed to sale business operator, as well as working in this education space for some time. And Jason's been one of the leading cannabis and tax attorneys within the state, particularly dancing around this comprehensive subject of cannabis. Before we dive too deep, I want to give a big shout out to our founding sponsoring members, Harris Speech Law Firm. They've been with us from the start. I'm super grateful for their support. Big shout out to Mad Hatter's Hideaway and the Wagner Firm PLLC. They have stepped up big for 2021 to support all this programming. Again, keeping the Zoom calls rolling. We got our founding business members, Boylan Code Law Firm, Canna Mill. Big shout out to the New York Cannabis Growers and Processors Association, Singer Farm Naturals, Forefathers Innovation, Tracy John Law Firm, Closed Loop Systems, and the Dawson Law Firm. And our 2021 business members, Hellendale Dermatology Medical Spa, Beacon Skiff, No Wave, Plant Science Labs, CBRE, and the EFPR Group. Again, we would not be here without y'all's support. All the folks, individuals who have either paid for programming or made contributions over the years, we're super grateful. And we're happy to be here. I'm going to stop the share for a second. Jason, you want to introduce yourself and just offer your 2 cents on what we're looking at?
Sure. So thank you, Zach, for inviting me to continue our foray into the ever exciting world of cannabis regulations and law. So I am Jason Klimek. I'm the cannabis co-leader and special counsel at Barclay, Damon. As Zach said, I've been doing this cannabis law and tax law, cannabis tax law for probably 4 years now. And it's been an adventure. Zach has been there a lot of the way with me. And it's a lot of information sharing and getting this out to the public. So I think that's why we're here, is we want to make sure that the public understands this stuff and then eventually has input into it. The regulators and legislators do listen, so it's important to have informed people making comments. So that's why we're here today. I think specifically, we're looking at these hemp regs that I think, at least in some part, could form the basis of some of the cannabis regulations, in particular, maybe in the processing realm or things like that, where they're not going to reinvent the wheel. What microbes, mycotoxins, residues, blah, 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 are they going to test for? Probably the same ones that are in the hemp regulations. So, I think even though maybe this is some familiar ground for people, it'll be good to go over it with an eye towards what may be in the adult use regulations whenever those are available. But maybe this is kind of like a sneak preview on some of those parts.
Absolutely. Before we dive into the read through, and if you're not familiar with this process, basically we're going to go section by section of this document. It's 48 pages, but it's at least 18 font and double space. So we can cruise through it pretty quickly. Jason and I determined that even if we don't finish within the hour, we'll probably push it out to an hour and 15 minutes just to make sure that everything's recorded and we can make that available to the public online. We do want to open up to questions. Normally we finish up with questions, but if there's anyone who has any questions up front pertaining to these cannabinoid hemp regulations, I welcome them. I had some questions coming in, like total cannabinoid content on packaging requirements or within a particular product. Questions about manufacturing requirements, processing requirements, et cetera. So if anyone has any outstanding questions, we welcome them at the front of this. If we know that it's going to get answered throughout this read through, we may just say, hey, we'll get back to that. But if it's a standalone, we're happy to address. So as I'm taking care of things in the background, I welcome that. You can drop questions in the chat. And that's probably the simplest way to go. And we could play around if folks feel inspired, they could raise their hand and we could allow some folks to offer their perspective. But I'm going to be working that in the background. Jason, let me see if you see anything pop up. Great. Cool. And we welcome questions any point in time throughout this process. That helps us stay engaged. And the intention is to look at this from as many different angles as we can. And obviously, again, Jason and I are bringing in our own perspective, but everyone in this audience, has something they can bring to the table, and we definitely welcome that. All right, let me get this here. All right, old part 114. Feels good to be back here, doesn't it, Jason?
It's wonderful.
Yes. So high level, we're going to be starting with the definitions and looking at the applications, licenses, transferability, basic requirements, product requirements, packaging requirements, laboratory requirements, defining New York hemp products, general prohibitions, and then some timeline stuff. So without further ado, so we'll probably take this pretty quickly. We've read through these things before, but there are subtle updates. You'll see in yellow, I personally highlighted things that I think are notable. That might be every single definition, and it may be one thing that just like defines that definition. So if we're moving too fast, feel free to again drop a question in the chat, and we'll go from there. Jason, I'm happy to take the lead on these definitions.
Sure.
So for the purpose of this part being different than other parts of the MRTA and the cannabis law, this is section 114, part 1. Broad spectrum means hemp extract or cannabinoid hemp product containing multiple cannabinoids, but whereas the delta-9 THC has been removed to a non-detectable level. So it's simply put there. Cannabidiol is naturally occurring hemp-derived. Oh,
Zach, one thing that I think get your opinion on is we know New York's stance on delta-9 versus total THC. So does that mean it can have total THC?
Ooh, fascinating question. Yeah, they say
or THCA, I should say.
Yeah, if we read a little deeper, levels using fit for purpose method with a limit of quantification of less than 0.01% THC. So, I'm prone to consider that that's total THC at this point, given language elsewhere, but the fact that they don't say total is a differentiator. It's an inconsistency. So it's like, okay, if it's not total THC, then we know it's delta-9, and that's been a loophole folks have been working with for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
So CBD, we all know what that is. What it does not include is synthetic CBD. So that's important to know. Synthetics will come into play in this conversation. Cannabinoids, means hemp-derived phytocannabinoid, phyto meaning plant-based, where we also have endocannabinoids, like endogenous from internal production, included but not limited to THC, THCA, CBD, CBDA, CBN, CBG, CBC, CBL, CBV, THCV, and the list goes on. I actually just got some lab tests back on my CBG extract, and I had some CBC in there. I had CBT in there, CBL, just these minors. It's just like, what does that even mean? Time will tell, but it's fascinating. And these are all things that are derived from the hemp plant. And we're talking about resin-based cannabis that is CBD dominant. And that is what is defined as hemp that's below 0.3% total THC. Cannabinoid hemp product is any product manufactured derived from hemp, which includes terpenes in its final form used for human consumption. Cannabinoid hemp shall not include cosmetics. Cannabinoid hemp retailer means a person is licensed by the office to sell hemp cannabinoid products, including via the internet, to New York consumers. Cannabinoid hemp processor means a person licensed by the office to extract hemp extracts and or manufacture cannabinoid hemp products in New York State, whether it's in intermediate or final form for human consumption. Certificate analysis, otherwise known as a COA, means a certified report from an independent third-party laboratory meeting the requirements of 1410 of this part, which defines what a third-party laboratory is. H, corrective action plan, means a plan submitted by licensee and approved by the office if to correct some kind of violation or non-compliance with this section. Cosmetic means meeting requirements of Section 321 of Title 21 of the United States Code and recognized as such by this office. So that's like topicals, etc. Falls in its own category that's different than a sublingual tincture or a vaporizer, etc. Distillate means hemp extract where a segment of one or more cannabinoids from initial extraction has been selectively concentrated. So it's usually has a certain percentage in this concentrate that's higher than a crude form, for example, but it's less than an isolate. We'll touch base on isolate shortly. Distribute means to offer, sell cannabinoid hemp products to a cannabinoid hemp retailer for the retail sale to folks within New York State. Extract or extraction means the process of concentrating or isolating one or more cannabinoids or cannabinoid hemp. Flower product means any form of cannabinoid hemp product consisting of the flowers, buds, leaves, stems of the hemp plant, including the trimmings thereof, intended for retail sale to the consumer with minimal processing, provided, however, that flower products shall not include one, any food, food ingredient, food additive, or item that is generally recognized as safe pursuant to the state or law. And two, any other product, including microgreens, sprouts, certified hemp leaf products as determined by this office. Full spectrum. You can see I have a little notification here that I got a question here. Full spectrum means that hemp extract or cannabinoid hemp product containing multiple hemp-derived cannabinoids, terpenes, and other natural occurring compounds processed without intentional complete removal of any compound and without additional of isolation. Cannabinoids with a final delta-9 THC concentration of no greater than 0.3%. So that's pretty standard, but my question here was, as we're looking at the MRTA, will we run into issues regarding the terminology of full spectrum when we enter the adult use market? Because there will be full spectrum adult use cannabis products that will absolutely have above 0.3% total THC or delta-9. So do we run into the potential of issue here, Jason, or is it just something that'll be clearly defined in the different sections?
I mean, I think that, they would have to probably just limit it to full spectrum under hemp or full spectrum under adult use and just kind of note which one it is, because like the definitions for this will probably be only applicable to whatever part this is, I can't remember, of the regulation. So you can't use those definitions outside the regulation. I do still think though that there's this delta-9 issue. If you start pushing, New York was very clear, we're measuring hemp as delta-9 less than 0.3, not total THC, which is the USDA definition. So, can you push that THCA into products that would otherwise be adult use, but for New York's definition?
Yeah, great question. Speaking of, hemp is defined as any part of the cannabis sativa L plant, including seeds and all derivatives, extracts, cannabinoids, isomers, acids, salts, and salts of isomers, whether growing or not, with a delta-9 THC concentration of not more than 0.3% on a dry weight basis. Always kind of a weird thing, as a cultivator, I get concerned where, like, if you were to come out and take the top inch of my most beautiful plant out in the field, it's probably going to have above 0.3% total THC or delta, not delta-9, but total. And that's where this, like, we're looking at like any part of the plant. Well, you could isolate a very small amount that could be have a higher concentration, whereas that may later be emulsified into more of an extraction-based product and kind of diluted. But it's like, if we're looking at any piece or part of the plant, how many strains out there that we grew in New York State last year that are guaranteed to have below 0.9 or 0.3% delta-9 THC or total THC as the USDA is going to require. So it's this kind of like, we're going to keep referring to this like the delta-9 issue versus the total THC issue. The federal government sees hemp as plants that are below 0.3% total, which is THCA and delta-9 THC. And as cultivators, there weren't that many strains that were grown in New York State in the past couple of years that are definitely going, when they're ready to harvest and ripe, will have below 0.3% total. And I think that's just, again, we're going to see this language bouncing back and forth that is honestly just anxiety inducing to folks who are operating in the space.
And it has implications too, that if you want to sell outside the state, it is, now you're crossing a federal line, but do you only have a New York State legal product versus a federal legal product? So, you have to be very careful. If you're in the, CBD realm, where you're just selling extracts across state line, you're not going to run into this issue as long as you have less than, the proper amounts. But for hemp, the plant, it's harder. I mean, THC can naturally occur in there.
Yeah, and it varies from plant to plant. One series of genetics could have 5 different phenotypes. You could have 20 plants and there's 4 different chemical and physiological expressions in the field. Each one of those has a subtle differentiation. That's like, okay. But yeah, and what's actually interesting, where you'll see that total THC number change when it comes to extracts, which is a new update, something that was proposed. Actually, here we go. Actually, it's going to define it further, but hemp extract means all derivatives XYZ used for human consumption with a delta 9 THC concentration of not more than an amount determined by the office pursuant to this part. So I think that is interesting. So they're going to say what is that total? They don't define that in this document, but there's plenty of language saying that we can define how many milligrams of THC will be in any given product whenever we want. So again, as someone who
that was in the prior, the draft regs, is they had, I think it was like 3,000 milligrams per product or something like that.
Yep, and that's something we'll see again in this document with a total CBD percentage, but they did not explicitly lay out total THC or milligrams per dose, which is a relief, and it's anxiety inducing, because again, as someone who's operating the space, I'm designing all my packaging to be compliant with New York State's requirement. Well, if New York State changes the regs and says, oh, we actually need you to say how many milligrams are in XYZ, that would require packaging change, and then all that upfront cost I just put in, including time, kind of goes down the drain. So
it's also interesting.
Anxiety. Yeah, go ahead.
It's also interesting to me too that it's human consumption, not animal as well, because when you go to over the FDA, it's human and animal. So presumably hemp extract and hemp products are not presumably, they are not defined as animal. So I don't know if that's, regulated or not.
Yeah, great question.
Specifically. So that's an interesting one, because FDA does.
And just for the sake of definition, hemp extract does not include any food or food ingredient. That's a different product. To call something hemp extract specifically throughout this document, it's just the extract standalone. Isolate means hemp extract that's comprised of 95% or more of a single cannabinoid compound. So you get some CBD isolate. That means it's got 95% CBD and maybe some other cannabinoids, but most likely not. Lot or batch, this is going to be important. That means any cannabinoid hemp product produced during a period of time under similar conditions as identified by a specific code that allows for traceability. In case something goes wrong, you're going to have to be able to identify what lot or batch, what time window was that product manufactured in? Are there any other issues within those products within that lot or batch? And in case there's a need for a recall. So that's just definitely important to know. That'll be a big issue in adult use too. We just saw a huge recall. I think it was in Michigan, where like millions of dollars of products were recalled off shelves because of inconsistency in testing. And they do that based on the lot or batch. And the way the traceability works, the track and trace systems, like there is a centralized data system that lets you know where every single lot or batch went across the state, again, in case of need for recall. Manufacture means to prepare, treat, modify, compound, process, package, or otherwise manipulate hemp or hemp extract into cannabinoid hemp product. Manufacturing shall not include the growing, cultivating, cloning, harvesting, drying, curing, grinding, or trimming when authorized pursuant to Article 29A of the Agriculture and Markets Law, or extraction as defined in Subdivision 1.
Which Zach and I were just talking about this before, and the packaging thing has an interesting implication that we were looking at it in the adult use context, and whether or not a cultivator would be allowed to package or would be required to either have a manufacturing or processing license or contract with a processor. And the MRTA itself, the statute is ambiguous because it doesn't list packaging as something a cultivator can do, but the list it does have says included to, but not limited to. So, it's just one of those things that is a small business going to get hammered by yet another fee because they have to, while they can, a cultivator can grow, harvest, dry, and trim, putting it into a bag and sealing that is a bridge too far. And now they have to go hire somebody to do that or go through the steps to get a processing license, which is not going to be inexpensive. So,
and so to me, again, as a small business that runs a seed to sale operation, like that is incredibly, I'll go so far as to say baloney. I'll stay short of the words that I would like to say, but it's incredibly frustrating. So now not only does all my manufacturing have to go through, I know my processing will go through a licensed processor or manufacturer, but for me, cultivating a premium product on the farm, up to a certain point, I can trim, but then I can't package it and then distribute it myself, or I have to outsource that process to someone to then bring their product back to me, which I like to be personally have my team that's been trained to a certain quality standard to put XYZ in a bag, XYZ doesn't. To outsource it costs time, energy, and then it gives you, from this craft industry perspective, it feels a little risky and vulnerable to have to put that part out where we're already doing 90% of it, 99% of it, putting it in the bags, the last part, and sealing it, and then getting it to market. So definitely a lot of anxiety around that, and it's conversations that have been had, and I'm curious if there's wiggle room to negotiate moving forward, but it does seem to, one reference point and a conversation that's been happening is there's precedent set in the agricultural market where let's say someone has 1,000 head of chickens or less, they're able to do on-site processing and in turn distribution from there. Anything more than that, they have to go to a processor to then do the work to then get it packaged. So we're looking at is there wiggle room for small cultivators to be able to do on-site processing or packaging specifically? And that apparently didn't make it in here, which is a little disheartening. New York hemp product means a cannabinoid hemp product that is derived from hemp exclusively grown, extracted, and manufactured in New York in compliance with section 114.13. Person means any individual, partnership, corporation, limited liability, company, association, or any business entity or institution of higher education by whatever name designated and whether or not incorporated. Serious adverse event means a medical occurrence associated with the use of cannabinoid hemp product in the result that in a human that results in one or more of the following outcomes: death, life-threatening event, inpatient hospitalization or prolongation of existing hospitalization, a persistent or significant incapacity or substantial disruption of the ability to conduct normal life functions, or congenital anomaly or birth defect. So those are big things, and we'll see where that comes into play on your packaging, for example, a little further down. Here we see total THC, means concentrations of delta-9 plus THCA times 0.877. So THCA, when most cannabinoids are within the plant pre-maturity, they're in their acid form. So they have an acid binding to them, making them a little less able to integrate into the human system, where they have different impacts. Through the process of heating, for example, or oxidation, that acid burns off, falls off, and becomes just regular THC, which gets you high. So they're making it clear that their total THC includes the THCA, which if you were to eat that or consume it would have a different impact that's a little less, let's say, than the delta-9. But when they combine the two, that's what you get, your total THC. And why? Because through this process of extraction, you're going to heat up your THCA more likely than not, and it will convert into just regular delta-9. So there's been this kind of loophole that when folks are working in this realm, and there's, the requirement is less than 0.3% delta-9 THC. Great, because I got 17% THCA that doesn't qualify as delta-9 until you burn it, so I can sell it right now. And we've seen these kind of loopholes where folks are, and maybe it's only 2% THCA or whatever, but it's been definitely used as a loophole.
Well, and when the 2018 Farm Bill came out, that was one of the things that I noted is that they said delta-9, and I was like, that can't possibly be what they meant. And all you had to do was go on a Massachusetts, I just picked Massachusetts, but a rec state, pull the label and see, 18% THCA, 0.4% delta-9. So, you could probably get that down to 0.3% delta-9. Was that federally legal? And then no, USDA was like, oh, wait a minute. No, we didn't we didn't legalize cannabis in the United States, and that's when they adopted the total THC. But New York just went for Delta 9. So that, that'll be interesting to see as adult use continues to develop, because is that going to be a significant loophole around the taxes? You're taxed on THC content. Are they just going to run it through the hemp program instead? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, but great question. Very great question. So last definition is used for human consumption. We all know what that means. So now we're looking at the application for cannabinoid hemp processor license. Jason and I decided we're going to take this pretty high level, but you want to run with it, Jason?
Sure. So no person or entity shall extract hemp or manufacture cannabinoid hemp product or hold itself out as a cannabinoid hemp processor unless it is in compliance with Article 5 of the cannabis law and this part, and is licensed by the Office of Cannabinoid Hemp as a cannabinoid hemp processor. An application for licensure shall be submitted to the office on a form prescribed by the office, which shall include the following. FYI, they just opened a new portal for hemp applications. So this is all live through OCM. I don't know if they still ultimately redirect you to DOH, but it's all now supposed to be under OCM. So, you need the normal stuff: name, phone number, identifying details, hour of operation. Nothing like mind bending here. It's pretty straightforward. Workers' comp stuff, you either have to apply for workers' compensation and disability insurance, or you get an exemption. An exemption could be had for, I believe, if you're the sole member of an LLC and you don't have any employees, then you don't need to get it. Summary of the description, so what are you doing? How are you doing it? They want to know all of that. They want to know the specifics.
Where's your hemp coming from, for example, especially if it's out of state, if it's in state, license, etc.
What type of products you're manufacturing. Just as a side, when I've done these applications or run through them, they're not super long. They're maybe like 8 or 9 pages or something like that. They're not huge, but you do have to be very detailed in your descriptions and things like that. But the one good thing that I have experienced is that the staff at prior DOH, now OCM, are really good to work with. Like, they are very communicative. They will, if you get kicked back and say, hey, we need more information, you can talk with them, call them, and they're very good about getting back to you and kind of helping you through the process. So that's been a good experience working with them. So I definitely have to give them props for that, because, they could make it very difficult, but they don't. So,
do you think this number 8, the statement, so is it purely just saying, how do you interpret that? A statement that the applicant setting up operating procedures will incorporate any language. So you literally just do copy and paste, say that, like, we are going to,
I would,
is it literally just, we're going to incorporate any language requirements provided by, it's just that, like, checking a box, but you got to write it down. It's funny.
Yes. I mean, one of the things in law is when they ask for something, you just repeat it right back to them, like exactly what they want to hear. Usually that works. Zach and I were talking about earlier, GMP, it can be a necessary evil. You want to have safe products, but on the other hand, it's quite the barrier to entry. And we fully expect this to spill over into adult use. So, how does that affect small businesses on adult use? Things like that.
Yeah, and it says, like, just off the bat, proof of a qualified third-party GMP audit of the applicant's extraction manufacturing process. Well, that means you have something already up and running, which would be illegal. So, or you're just someone who's already been operating in the space. The alternative is a detailed plan for obtaining a qualified third party within 6 months, the auditing process within 6 months of approval. So that's like, that in itself is also pretty extensive. So to line those kind of things up, like, we all know how things are right now with labor shortages, for example. It's like, okay, so you got to get your license, you got to have your place, you got to set up your laboratory, and then within that time frame, 6 months, like, get your GMP certification audit. That's a lot. It's a lot to just kind of to take on a whim or up front. So, and
when you do this through OCM or DOH or whatever, they give you if you get through most of these, but like your GMP audit isn't done, they can give you the provisional license. And then you have to get that done within 6 months. If you don't, they can revoke that provisional and you're now back at square one where you have to go through the entire application process again. So, I mean, it is a big undertaking. Absolutely.
Yep.
So a description of any other licenses issued by state or federal authorities related to the operation of the licensee or the facility where the license is active. A description of any other businesses or business activities conducted on the premises to be licensed. That one's interesting because there's adult use implications there. Right now, there is a prohibition in the law on, you know, the adult use side that says you can't have other operations on the facility. So presumably the language that, you know, means that you can't have a hemp facility co-located. So I know that I believe there are discussions on trying to get that changed, but you know, that is a reasonable interpretation right now under the adult use law that you couldn't have both a hemp processing facility and an adult use processing facility or something like that. So stay tuned on that one. Copy of the org docs, standard. A statement attesting that the applicant and those in control of the entity, meaning a person that has the ability to direct the activity of the applicant or licensee, including principals, officers, or others, are of good moral character.
So is that a reference letter? Like you need to get someone to say that you're a good person, or is it like, hey, I'm good, look at me, you know, like.
I mean, I would literally just repeat it right back to them. You know?
Okay. So again, an example of a statement saying, you just blame me here.
The principals, officers of the applicant are of good moral character. If they want more, let them tell you.
Okay.
I mean, you know, some of this stuff, and certainly in the adult use space, is going to require background checks anyway. So,
yeah, true.
Let's see. Statement attesting the applicant will comply with the applicable state and local laws and regulations. Again, it's a statement. We will comply. But you are putting that in an application. You are representing to the government that you're going to do that. So, you know, the penalties for non-compliance could be that much more severe because you're knowingly saying we are going to do this and then do something different. Also a requirement under the MRTA for adult use licenses. A statement attesting that the applicant has the experience and competency to undertake the activities for which licensure is sought. That's a tough one for getting right into the industry. You know, I mean, it's probably a good thing, but on the other hand, like it may knock out people who don't have that experience, although I very much doubt that they're going to say that. But, you know, word to the wise. Any other information that may be required by the office. And all right, so C, applications under this section shall be accompanied by a non-refundable fee of $1,000 for extraction manufacturing and $500 for manufacturing only. Applicants shall verify the truth and accuracy contained in the application. The office in its discretion may reject or deny application if it determines that information containing therein is false, inaccurate, or omits material fact. That sort of kind of sounds like you're swearing under penalty of perjury, which I think in New York is like a misdemeanor if you commit perjury. So you know, don't lie on government forms. It's always a bad plan.
You heard that here first.
You would be surprised how many people need to be told that.
It's real. Section 114.3 is the application for the cannabinoid hemp retail license. You know, no person shall offer or sell cannabinoid hemp products in New York State without being a licensed retailer. Long story short. An application for this license must be submitted and shall include, again, your basic contact information, the physical address or real property where they intend to operate, the days and hours of operation, and for any online retailer, the website, the name and license number to extend, this is also important. So if you're going to be a retailer, you need to know, you have to have a list of the name, license number, the manufacturer, packer, distributor, or cannabinoid hemp processor, state and country where manufacturer, packer, and distributor is located for all the products you have on your shelves you have to offer for sale. So it's like, that's most of y'all probably, if you are a retailer on this call, you're not dealing with that right now, but every single product you will need to have a backend kind of log as to, is there a license? That license is going to be important. If it's an out-of-state actor, Are they going to be compliant with New York standards? That's also going to be informing here. So everything you're selling on your shelves has to be traced back to some form of organization, and we'll see what will be allowed and what will not be. Just a summary description of the types of forms, the hemp cannabinoid products you intend to sell. Oh, I have a question popping up here in the corner. Oh, I'm creating that. A statement testing saying that I will not sell any inhalable cannabinoid hemp products or flower products to consumers under the age of 21. So that's a big thing. A statement saying you're of good moral character. Statement saying you'll listen and abide by or comply with the laws. A statement testing that you'll not distribute any hemp cannabinoid products in the form of injectable, inhaler, or flower product clearly labeled or advertised for the purpose of smoking, or combined with other items designated to facilitate smoking. Big question, Jason. What about an online retailer? If I have joint papers on my website, does that mean I can't sell hemp flower?
I mean, so actually, I was at an event last week with Donna Lepardo, and who is a major contributor to the hemp bill, was very much a big supporter of the hemp industry in New York. And she was talking about the whole kind of idea that retailers could sell flower, but had to note that it's not for smoking, but then you could go to a dispensary and buy the flower that is for smoking once dispensaries are up and running. And so, I mean, there does seem to be this, very hard kind of line of, if you're not adult use, then maybe there is that argument that even if you're online, they don't want it. They're not, New York is, I think, in the position of not promoting smoking that isn't completely regulated by the adult use market, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's a good thing.
Just think about it. You go to a smoke shop. I'm gonna do a blanket statement. Smoke shop. They sell papers, pipes, things. They also have cannabinoid hemp products. They have flower. Can you, at the retailer, not buy? Is it explicit that you can't, in one package, one parcel, I can't have joint papers and my hemp flower, even though they're not sold as a bundle? Like, to what degree are we splitting hairs? Because it says combined with other items. So it's like, if someone wants to go in to buy, or is it a package? I mean, it's probably more trying to be a package deal, but it's like, still.
I mean, I think that you can't indicate it's for smoking. So like, I don't think you could even say, well, here's the hemp flower and I have some rolling papers over here and you can purchase them together. Like, I don't know. We'll have to see, like, because you're right, this is up for interpretation. So we'll have to see how enforcement actually happens. Now, if I had to take a guess, there probably won't be much.
Totally. I'm just making a stink, but it's still like, it's a question we ask of like, okay, combined with, and does that mean at checkout or does that mean a bundle? And it's probably more of a bundle, but just still.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's completely reasonable to say you couldn't package them together and sell it as that. Like that, I think is absolutely. But how far away that separation goes, don't know. We have a question.
So Frank asked, what about pre-roll blunt made from a tobacco wrap? So cigar, well, let's reread this. Will not distribute any cannabinoid hemp product in the form of injectable, inhaler, or flower product clearly labeled or advertised for the purpose of smoking, or in the form of cigarette, cigar, or pre-roll, or otherwise packaged or combined with other items designated to facilitate smoking. So I will go so far as to say that's not allowed. Pre-rolls are not allowed. Like a packed blunt, even if it's now, can you like offer the service of rolling people blunts at a party? Like maybe, but like not over the counter retail. I hope that answers your question. I hope that doesn't hurt your business model too much. So proof of certificate of authority, that just means you need to say, here, I got my tax thing. I'm a retailer. I'm doing my dues. And then the application under this section shall be accompanied by a refundable license fee of $300 for each retail facility to be licensed. And then again, this kind of like everyone says whatever you put on paper, you're declaring innately that it is truth. And if it's not, then you're susceptible for perjury. It's pretty simple. Jason, you want to take a run at it?
Sure. All right, licensing issue and denial. Licenses will be approved only if a complete application has been submitted. The application demonstrates to the satisfaction of the office that the applicant will operate in accordance with the Article 5 of the cannabis law, which is hemp. The applicant is ready, willing, and able to properly carry on the activities set forth in the application, and is of good moral character. Just on point 3 there, the reason is that they want to, that they keep emphasizing that kind of thing throughout all this stuff is because they want to make sure that if you're licensing or if you're getting a license, you're going to be using it, because I'm sure they're taking data, and they'll do this in adult use, of the supply and things like that to make sure that they're at least trying to, whether they will or not, I don't know, but they're at least trying to meet market demands. So I think that's, why they're doing this and putting it explicitly in there, is that you're representing you can do this, because if not, we're not going to allow you to just sit on a license that could be used by somebody else. So it's important. I'm sure we'll see that come up again in adult use.
Mm-hmm.
In determining whether to deny a license, including for an application renewal, the office may consider the following factors: false representation or omission of material fact, failure to supply further written information necessary to process the application within 30 days, conviction of any crime or sustained charges of administrative violations of state or federal law, rules, regs related to the operation of a site growing, extracting, manufacturing, or selling cannabis, hemp, or cannabinoid hemp in accordance with Article 23A of the Corrections Law. Convictions qualifying for expungement pursuant to the criminal law shall not be considered for this. So, that's an important one. And it says state or federal laws. So, just watch out. Don't get convicted of any type of cannabis related crime, hemp cannabis crime. It can, and it could be the exact same thing under the adult use law.
Mm-hmm.
A pattern of deficiencies, including but not limited to refusal or inability to produce records or reports, failure to correct deficiencies in accordance with the approved corrective action plan, deviations from regs or standard operating procedures so as to jeopardize the quality of hemp extract or cannabinoid hemp products, and refusal to provide office employees with access to the premises. Knowledge of sale of cannabinoid hemp products not meeting the requirements of this part, and general failure to comply with the requirements of this part.
So we have a question. Caitlin will answer that shortly. CBD vapes can be sold, but there's going to be a little bit of explicit detail about that shortly. So we'll answer that soon.
Denial of a license shall preclude the applicant from being licensed as a cannabinoid hemp processor or cannabinoid hemp retailer, either directly or indirectly through any other person. So you can't get denied and then go try to, do it again through another entity or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
No license application shall be considered for any applicant who is substantially the same as an applicant who has been denied a license within 6 months of determination by the office denying such application. In the event an applicant receives 2 successive license denials, no application shall be considered for that applicant within 2 years of the last determination. The office will prioritize applications from applicants who previously held valid research partnership agreements with the Department of Agriculture and Markets. Let's see. For applicants seeking licensure as cannabinoid hemp processor, the office may provisionally approve the application. Before a cannabinoid hemp processor license is issued, the applicant can begin extracting or manufacturing. The provisionally approved applicant must first satisfy the following requirements: a copy of the certificate of occupancy. That's going to be working with your local building inspector and municipality. A copy of the approved applicant's qualified GMP certification. Payment of licensure fees as follows: extraction manufacturing $3,500 per location. hemp processor manufacturing only, $1,000. So, remember, you got to add those application fees on top of those fees. Proof of sufficient product liability insurance for all manufactured cannabinoid hemp products. And
which is not cheap, folks. Like, for example, I personally, we have, let's say 6 SKUs, and we're paying $500 a month just at that point. And that's, we're a small business. I can't really imagine how much your monthly cost is going to be in insurance if you're on a larger level.
And then think about that on the THC side eventually, because now you're selling an intoxicating product. And evidence to the office satisfaction that the applicant will be able to comply with this part. If a provisionally approved applicant fails to satisfy the requirements in this subdivision F of this section within 6 months, the provisional approval will be revoked and the application denied, provided that the application may request additional time and shall have the opportunity to demonstrate to the office a reasonable documented effort to complete the requirements of this section. So, if you can come up with, as Zach kind of pointed out, like COVID makes everything more difficult. If you can point to COVID and say, hey, listen, we couldn't get this because the GMP auditors are scheduling out 12 months and we tried, they may let you slide on that because, okay, we understand there's literally nobody else to get it in here and do it. So, it's not going to hopefully be detrimental to your application. So, and as I said, I've had good experiences with the office. They're pretty easy to work with. So hopefully they will continue that and, allow people to, extend timelines if there's a need for it. Cannabinoid hemp processor licenses shall be valid for 2 years from the issue date. A cannabinoid hemp processor seeking to terminate its license shall submit a withdrawal notice to the office at least 30 days prior to termination, along with a plan for shutting down the operation. Licensing fees or invoices prior to the notice are not eligible for a refund. Cannabinoid hemp retailer license shall be valid for 1 year from the issuance date. Cannabinoid hemp retailer applicants who submitted a completed application to the Department of Health on or before June 1, 2021 may sell cannabinoid hemp products at retail to consumers before having their license approved or denied by the office, provided that the hemp retailer adheres to all the requirements of the part. So, if you did it 6 months ago, all right, but
you're good to go.
Yeah.
I can take a swing here. So section 114.5 license renewal. An application to renew any license shall be filed with the office not more than 90 days before, not more than 90 days, nor less than 30 days prior to the expiration thereof. So you got to have this thing, you be on top of your time frame. You got to have this window of 60 days, but technically 30 days, the last being 30 days before the expiration of your license. Renewal application shall be accompanied with a non-refundable application fee, and those are as followed. For hemp combined cannabinoid hemp processor extraction and manufacturing, it's a $1,000 application fee and a $3,500 licensing fee. Cannabinoid hemp processor manufacturing only $500 application fee, $1,000 license fee. Cannabinoid hemp retailer, $300 per license per retail location. The license fee shall be returned if the license renewal application is not granted. So this is that's just obviously your application fee would get lost in manufacturing or extraction manufacturing, but you would get your license fee back.
And I think one thing to point out too is, is there any, does this give us any indication as what adult use license fees might look like? And, we can look to other states and see, with Connecticut adult use, if you're not a social equity applicant, a retailer license is to enter their lottery is $500, the provisional is $5,000, and the license is $25,000. Is New York, that loves their fees, going to come in substantially less, at $300 a pop? It certainly would promote social equity to have, a barrier to entry, because in Connecticut, social equity cuts that in half. So, in Connecticut, you're at roughly $15,000 for a retailer license for social equity. Still a big barrier to entry. So is New York really going to cut those down, or are they going to follow more of that model? It's interesting to see how they'll deal with that, given what hemp has kind of set up.
Totally. Last little bits on renewal, just basically the office may require any additional information and you need to share it. Transferability is pretty simple too. License issue on his part shall be effective only for the licensee and shall specify the following: the name of the licensee, the address, real property, the date issued, expiration, basic information. But a license shall not be transferable or assignable without the written approval of the office without limitation to another license. A change in majority ownership or controlling interest shall constitute as a transfer of license. And again, you can't have that happen without the state's approval. To obtain approval of the office, the transferee must submit an application to the office in a manner presented and prescribed by the office. And then if the applicant fails to demonstrate that the transferee will comply with the requirements of this part, or if there's a record of poor performance or meaning 2 or more violations, that could also be that would be a reason to be denied. A licensee may amend the license or add or delete permitted activities or change the location of the licensed facility by submitting a written request with an application fee. And then a request to add permitted activities shall be reviewed by the office in accordance with this part. All right, so Jason, you want to dive into requirements of hemp cannabinoid processors?
Sure. So all processors shall extract hemp extract and or manufacture cannabinoid hemp products to GMP standards and maintain a qualified third-party certification to the satisfaction of the office for the applicable GMP standards for the duration of the license. Maintain standard operating procedures and quality control standards to ensure the consistency hemp extract or products, including but not limited to product purity, strength, and composition. Maintain sufficient records to demonstrate that any hemp or hemp extract used by the licensee was grown, derived, extracted, and transported in accordance with applicable local laws and licensing requirements of the jurisdictions from which the hemp or hemp extract was sourced. Such records shall include any pesticides used in the growing of the hemp, dates, adequate chain of custody. The hemp received from an out-of-state grower processor shall also maintain records of out-of-state grower registration or license numbers in the respective jurisdiction.
So I double underline, you can see this one's orange compared to the yellows, because I think that those sufficient records it's a lot. And so you have to dial in your operating procedures to ensure every product in or out checks off all these boxes of important data to collect. And it's no small lift.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Keep all designated extracting and manufacturing areas safe and sanitary, including but not limited to ensuring that such areas are adequately lit, clean, smoke-free, and no food is consumed in such areas. Provide all employees performing extraction or manufacturing with adequate training and proper safety equipment. Manufacture cannabinoid hemp products in accordance with section 114.8 of this part. Test a statistically significant number of cannabinoid hemp products per lot or batch. That's actually statistically significant is actually like a term. So I'm wondering, are they going to teach people what statistically significant means and how many you actually have to do?
I'm sure.
And you got to maintain the COA for all the tested samples. Maintain sufficient records pertaining to the calibration and inspection of instruments used to extract. Report in a frequency and manner prescribed to the office a total production and sales of the licensee during such reporting period. Ensure the security of the licensed premises to prevent unauthorized individuals from entering the facility and to prevent hemp extract and or cannabinoid hemp products from being diverted from the facility. Not use synthetic cannabinoids. This is a big one, or Delta 8 or Delta 10, created through isomerization in the extraction or manufacturing process of any cannabinoid hemp products. But, then you get into, okay, and I had to have this explained to me because I am not a chemist. I don't know what really isomerization means, but what I understand, a very simplified way to look at it is, you have one molecule here and the isomer is like, could be the mirror image of it. So it's technically different, but not. And so like that presumably wouldn't include something like THCO, which is not an isomer of THC, but is a separate molecule in and of itself that is apparently, from something I read, like 6 times more potent than Delta 9 THC.
Oh, there's a new loophole, folks. Make sure you capitalize on it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when they start to specifically define everything, we have a problem. And THCO is not part of the definition under the adult use for like taxing on THC, because they specifically define what THC means. So like there's going to be a lot of these things. And so now you sell THCO, maybe you don't have to get an adult use license. Maybe you're in hemp and maybe you're not paying the adult use taxes. So like there's a lot of things that need to be worked out, and science is not making it any easier for the regulators. Okay, assign lot number batch to each lot of hemp extract or products. Maintain any and all records required by this part for at least 3 years. Have a good backup system, preferably offsite. Possession and intermediate sale of hemp extract by and between licensed cannabinoid hemp processors is permitted, provided that such extract leaves the licensed premises is accompanied by a COA that the extract is less than 3% THC. Don't cross a state line with that. And a copy of the hemp processor's license, and further provides such hemp extract is only transported intra-state within the state. Licensees shall monitor complaints from cannabinoid hemp retailers and consumers and have a mechanism in place to notify the licensee supply chain to recall products when directed by the office or as deemed appropriate by the license. Licensee shall notify the office within 24 hours of learning of serious adverse events. This is why this is a big reason for the tracking, particularly in hemp, because it's not about like the taxes for them on hemp. Is consumer safety. So notifying the supply chain, just like if there's a food issue, the entire supply chain knows about it. Same reason. Licensees shall ensure that proper disposal beyond reclamation of any hemp extract or byproduct from the extract and manufacture process with a total Delta 9 concentration greater than 0.3%, which will not be used or subject to further processing. Such disposal shall render hemp extract or byproduct unusable for any intoxicating purpose. Licensees shall maintain a record to document and track any Delta 9 THC extracted by hemp or found within hemp extract throughout the extraction process. Licensees shall dispose of any cannabinoid hemp product that is outdated, damaged, deteriorated, contaminated, or otherwise deemed not appropriate for sale. And licensees shall dispose of liquid, chemicals, and hazardous waste in accordance with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations. The office may conduct random sampling and testing of hemp extract, cannabinoid hemp products, or any solvents, chemicals, or materials used by the licensee, unannounced at any time during normal business hours. Surprise. If a cannabinoid hemp processor is authorized to perform extraction, the processor shall only extract using the methods approved by the office on the licensed premises and using the employees and equipment sufficient to ensure safe extraction, and only use those solvents that are approved by the office. Solvent-based extraction must be completed in a commercial, professional-grade, closed-loop system capable of recovering solvent used for extraction.
All right, I'll take the swing in the cannabinoid hemp product requirements. All cannabinoid hemp products distributed or offered for retail sale in New York State shall, so all, double underline, let's make that nice and boom, look at that, it's got orange, means it's important. Be manufactured in accordance with parts 101, 111, or 117 of Title 21 of the Code of Federal Regulations, which is all GMP certification and manufacturing. So let's be clear here, folks. Any products sold in New York State must be made according to these parts of the GMP, the Good Manufacturing Code, which I'll go so far as to say most out-of-state actors are not producing up to that code. New York State has set the bar highest in the country, which is great for consumers, challenging for in-state businesses because it's costly, but it is also kind of creates a wall where a lot of out-of-state product isn't going to make it on the shelves once this is initiated.
Yeah,
so that's a big deal.
The Commerce Clause doesn't allow the state, because now we are talking about a federally legal product, to say you can't sell out-of-state products in New York, but they can create such high barriers through quality control and things like that, that it filters out a lot. So yeah, as Zach said, double-edged sword, high cost of compliance for New York State businesses, but limits the out-of-state businesses where maybe, you know, they have lower costs and things like that and can undercut. So there you go.
So 2 is contain no more than 0.3% total THC concentration. The office may, through further regulation, impose a total THC cap for the purpose of protecting public health, which shall include detectable levels of total Delta 9 THC, Delta 8 THC, Delta 10 THC in milligrams per serving and milligrams per package for cannabinoid hemp products based on the product form, volume, number of servings, and ratio of CBD to THC. So that's a big, like, may through future regulation impose statement that, you know, could change everything with regards to your packaging, labeling, etc. So again, as someone who's building this out as we speak, or planning, or already have products on the shelf, it becomes a big edge when we're talking about inventory requirements. You know, you're not making one box at a time. Usually it's 1,000 boxes at a time. How much should those cost? How much do those labels cost? You know, the batch, all those things, it definitely can compound if we're not careful here. 3, shall not contain liquor, wine, beer, cider, or meet the definition of an alcoholic beverage as defined in Section 3 of the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law. Again, back to that question about blunts. Not contain tobacco or nicotine in the product. 5, not be in the form of injectable inhaler product including cigar, or pre-roll, or any other disallowed form as determined by the office. Must accurately reflect testing results and not contain less than 80% or more than 120% of the concentration of total cannabinoid content listed on the product label. So total cannabinoid content. Before these regs dropped, there was not a requirement for total cannabinoid content on your packaging. It was standard was total CBD, for example, not the minors, et cetera. And I think that is definitely a curveball. It makes sense, but it's, again, I designed my packaging, for example, as the regs were being proposed, and certain things like this weren't there initially. That had I known that, I may have changed my packaging. Now there's ways to work around it, but it's definitely like a oh shit moment. So just be mindful. Comply with packaging and labeling standards in section of 114.9. We'll look at that later. Be packaged and not added to food or any other consumable products at the point of sale. That's a big thing. Be shelf stable. Comply with product testing standards of part 10 of this. Not contain synthetic cannabinoids or cannabinoids created through isomerization, including Delta 8 or Delta 10. And if the cannabinoid hemp product is a food or beverage manufactured under Part 117, Title 21 of the Federal Code Regulations, it shall not contain more than 25 milligrams total cannabinoids per individual packaged product. If the cannabinoid hemp product is a supplement manufactured under Part 111 of Title 21 Code of Regulations, it shall not contain more than 3,000 milligrams of total cannabinoid per product, with no more than 75 milligrams per individual serving. Red flag, if you've been making products in the hemp industry and you just happen to have a standard 2,400 milligram dose, which most companies do, such as myself, it's a 2,400 milligram bottle, minimum has 80 milligrams of cannabinoids, specifically CBD per dropper.
But they did say that in a future reg amendment, didn't they say they want to up that 75 to 100?
Yeah, I did hear that. It's just still, again, seeing this here, it's like, okay, does that mean my number one SKU is now illegal? It's like, it's edgy. And again, at 75 milligrams, like, it's my mind is like, y'all didn't look at any products on the market. Like which product has a 7, you know, if we're looking at most things, go ahead.
I think part of it was also because people are gaming the system on Delta 9. So, sure. You know, and now that they have that language that they're going to come back and look at Delta 9, maybe that, you know, that's why they say, okay, 100 is fine in the future.
Precisely.
Because yeah, this, you know, people were saying, oh, well, I can put in, as long as Delta 9 is only 0.3% of the cannabinoids that I pack in there, then it's fine. And so you have a product that's, you know,
technically 0.3 delta 9, but it has 10 milligrams of delta 9 in it.
Well, but that goes back up to the food. That's a food product. Most of these things, we see that in gummies. People saying, I got 10 mgs of THC in this gummy and 50 mgs of CBD, but the total THC content, including gummy, sugars, all that stuff, is only 0.3%. And it's like, okay, but when we're talking about part 111, like the supplement, those are either, I guess those could fall in the realm of gummies, but definitely mostly alluding to tinctures. And again, it's like a lot of tinctures on the market range from 900 to 2400. And guarantee 2400 means there's going to be 80 milligrams per individual serving of CBD alone. So while you're talking about like they are going to open it up, I do think that's, the loophole of THC is what we've been kind of looking at again and again. But again, as someone who's working in the industry, I'm like, little Macaulay Culkin over there. All right. So if the cannabinoid hemp product contains multiple servings which are not individually wrapped, pre-measured, separated, or delineated, it shall include a measuring device such as a measuring cap, cup, dropper with the product packaging. Hash marks on packaging shall not qualify as a measuring device. So simply put, a dropper that has measuring, that's one way to do it, or a measuring cap like you might see NyQuil or something. All inhalable cannabinoid hemp products shall meet the following additional requirements. So here we go. Question about from Caitlin. We're answering you live right now. So all inhalable cannabinoid hemp products shall meet the following additional requirements. 1, be a closed system with pre-filled disposable cartridge that attaches to a rechargeable battery or a single-use product that cannot be recharged. 2, electronic vaporization device shall have an internal or external temperature control to prevent combustion and have a heating element made of inert material such as glass, ceramic, or stainless steel and not plastic or rubber. 3, except for hemp-derived terpenes, excipients and ingredients must be pharmaceutical grade unless otherwise approved by the office and shall not include 1, synthetic terpenes, 2, polyethylene glycol, vitamin E acetate, MCT oil, medicinal compounds or illegal controlled substances, artificial food coloring, benzoic acid, diketones, don't know what that is, or any other compound or ingredient as determined by the office and regulation. It also may not include any flavors or flavoring agents except for hemp-derived terpenes, and include an office-approved symbol as set out in future regulation in a manner that is clear and conspicuous. So all vape products will have a state-approved symbol. So vapes can be sold, but under those requirements. Okay, folks, just noting that we are past 1 o'clock. We're having a great time here. We're gonna keep on rolling. Feel free to stay with us as long as you want. Just take a note of the time and use that as a reference point if you have to come back later and watch the rest of this. Jason, you still good to go?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. Let's take section. Go for it. Packaging and labeling.
All right. All cannabinoid hemp products distributed or offered for retail in New York shall include the following info on the label or packaging. If the cannabinoid hemp product is consumed through ingestion, including sublingual or oral absorption, comply with the requirements in CFR 101, include a nutritional or supplement fact panel that is based on the number of servings within the container, a list of ingredients in descending order of predominance by weight in the product, the number of servings per outer package or container, including the milligrams per serving and the milligrams per package of CBD, total THC or THC, which for the purpose of product labeling shall include detectable levels of delta 9, delta 8, and delta 10. And,
so one second. So I have a comment say must be bolded. So 1 through 3, we'll see a little bit further down. It has to be at least 4.5 font, and 1, 2, 3 here must be bold. And there's one more section that must be bold. So if you're looking to like design your packaging, these 3 things need to be in bold on your packaging.
And any other marketed cannabinoid. An expiration date.
What constitutes? Is that any marketed cannabinoid on the market? Or is it you're marketing it in your product?
I mean, I would interpret it as the latter, but it could reasonably be interpreted as the former. Something to find out. An expiration date or best by date, if applicable, a lot or batch number, the name of the cannabinoid hemp processor or out-of-state manufacturer, packer, or distributor, a scannable barcode or QR code linked to a downloadable COA or linked to a website where the COA can be downloaded, the country or countries of origin from which the hemp used in the product was sourced, means for reporting serious adverse events or side effects, and any other marketing statement or symbol as required by the office in regulation. No cannabinoid hemp product packaging shall imitate a candy label or use cartoons or any other image properly used to advertise to children or otherwise be marketed to anyone under 18 years of age, or for inhalable cannabinoid hemp products, the flower products to anyone under 21. All cannabinoid hemp products shall be packaged in tamper-evident packaging that minimizes oxygen and light exposure to prevent degradation of the product and cannabinoids.
Everyone, I'm just sending a response out. Yes, we will be sharing this recording. So thanks for the question, Anthony. Big question though, too, on this imitate candy label or use cartoons. Everyone here is seeing the THC cartoon packaging, Mylar bags on the side of the road or wherever at this point in time. And it really begs the question of even something like the brand cookies. Like, is cookies going to be allowed to be sold if it has cartoon writing? Its color, everything, to me, I would say is absolutely to be marketed under someone the age of 21. And how does this translate to adult use?
So the nice thing that I will say is that there are tons of guidelines and guidance regarding alcohol as it's marketed to those above 21 and prohibitions for below 21. So at least you can kind of look to that and say, well, that's safe in alcohol. So that at least provides like the baseline of what I can and can't do. But then in adult use, I mean, they're not going to be able to use the slang terms for the different cultivars and things like that. Like, you go to the medical dispensary now and it's like 3 letters that sort of kind of give you an indication of what you're actually, buying. And so I think that it's very much like, you have to be careful that it is not appealing or attractive to kids. And that is all. The nice thing is we have federal guidelines on that. So you can at least kind of make sure that you're at least hitting those. And that probably will get you over the hump with New York as well, unless they have additional requirements that they come out with.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All cannabinoid hemp products shall be accompanied by recommended serving and clear usage instructions. All cannabinoid hemp products claiming to be isolate, full spectrum, broad spectrum, or distillate shall comply with the applicable definitions. All cannabinoid hemp products offered for retail sales shall include the following warnings on the product label or packaging in a manner that is clear and conspicuous. Keep out of reach of children. That the product is derived from hemp and may contain THC, which could result in a failed drug test, provided, however, this warning may be omitted for cannabinoid hemp products that are topically applied, made exclusively using an isolate, or made from broad spectrum hemp extract, derived entirely from hemp grown, extracted, and manufactured in New York. So there's another kind of like New York protectionist thing that hypothetically is constitutional. That the product has not been evaluated by the FDA for safety or efficacy, standard supplement thing. Those who are pregnant or nursing should consult their healthcare provider before use. And if the product is an inhalable cannabinoid hemp product, a warning stating that smoking or vaporizing is hazardous to your health. No information required to be listed on the cannabinoid hemp product labeling or packaging in accordance with this section shall be smaller than 4.5 font. And the information required by subparagraph A31 through 3, that's what Zach pointed out earlier, and paragraph F2, which was directly above this, of the section shall be bolded and at least 1 font size larger than the other text required. So at minimum 5.5 to be listed on the product label.
And if you're in the business of designing, packaging, branding, et cetera, it's all about real estate. You got limited real estate on a given package. The bigger the package, the higher the cost. Though 4-point font to 5.5 font, that constrains you. And if you got all that data you need to put on and still have an attractive box or your design that's going to be competitive on the market, et cetera, get your point across, it's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, laboratory, point 10, laboratory testing requirements for cannabinoid hemp. For the purpose of this section, the following term shall have the following meaning. Accreditation body means an impartial not-for-profit that operates in conformance with the International Organization of Standardization, ISO, IEC, ILAC, and or MRA for testing. 2, scope of accreditation means a document issued by the accreditation body that attests to the laboratory's competence to carry out specific testing and analysis. Testing laboratory means an independent third-party laboratory contracted by a cannabinoid hemp processor to test cannabinoid hemp products. To be recognized as a testing laboratory for the purpose of testing cannabinoid hemp products as required by this part, the laboratory must either be approved to test medical marijuana pursuant to section 55-2.15 of Title 10 of the compliant codes and rules and regulations of the state of New York, Article 6 of the cannabis law, or meeting the following minimum requirements. Maintain ISO IEC 17025 accreditation for the premises and for the testing of one or more of the following: cannabinoids, heavy metals, microbial impurities, mycotoxins, residual pesticides, residual solvents, and processing chemicals, or if tested, terpenoids. 2, maintain a valid scope of accreditation issued by accreditation body that tests the laboratory's competence to perform these tests. Maintain a method validation reports for all testing performed, and maintain standard operating procedures for the sampling of cannabinoid hemp products. Cannabinoid hemp processor shall retain and make available to the office upon request all records associated with their laboratory's ISO IEC 17025 accreditation, scope of accreditation, method validation reports, and standard operating procedures for the sampling of cannabinoid hemp products as required by the section. That's a mouthful, but we're in the business of science and there's going to be a lot of details. Cannabinoid hemp products shall be considered adulterated and should not be sold in New York State if contaminants are detected at levels greater than provided by the office or issued in further guidance. The office shall have the ability to impose additional testing requirements, including but not limited to testing for additional analytes, setting stricter contaminant limits, and mandating the use of specific sampling methodologies per lot or batch. It's actually interesting. There's a big issue that there's no standard operating agreement or procedures for testing across the cannabis industry. And within that, you see a bunch of different people doing slightly similar or different things that will dramatically change the results of your testing. Standardization is a big issue in the scientific community. The fact that it's not here predominantly because it's been federally illegal, that they haven't been able to develop what is called the assays, which is just your standard procedure that is common across the board that guarantees replicability. So we'll see what that turns into as this industry continues to evolve. Pesticide limits, you guys can go back and read this. It's fascinating to see all the different pesticides and their maximum minimum level parts per billion or parts per million, mostly parts per billion. We've noted here the smaller ones, like 100 parts per billion means like that shit's poisonous. Like small amounts versus 3,000 parts per billion, like, it's obviously like 30x, more value. Like, and doesn't mean that any of these things are safe, just to be clear, but it's interesting to note that. You can see where the real bad poison is, and make sure you're not using any of this crap in your production process.
And also take note that this is probably the list for adult use too. So everything they're putting in here is probably going to be the same. Maybe they add some more, but I'm sure they're not going to subtract.
Yep. And then residual solvents, same thing, okay, you got your butane, you got your ethanol, you got your ether, your hexane, your isopropyl, propane, etc. Metal limits, again, we could digest this here, what that all means. That's probably a conversation at another point in time. Biological limits, they make it pretty darn clear, E. coli, salmonella, other, total plate counts for both yeast and mold. And basically that means like you set something out and you see what develops over X amount of time. Mycotoxin limits in the parts per billion. And then cannabinoid limits. The total THC concentration for cannabinoid hemp shall not be more than 0.3%. If a cannabinoid hemp product fails, the processor may elect to re-extract the failing batch to reduce the delta 9. But if the re-extraction still doesn't succeed to be below 0.3%, then it's got to be destroyed. If the cannabinoid hemp product is found to contain levels of any pathogen, toxicant, residual, solvent, metal, or pesticide not enumerated in the section or by New York state law, then the product shall not be sold in New York state. Okay, Jason, you want to take cannabinoid hemp retailer section?
Sure. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall only sell cannabinoid hemp products manufactured, packaged, labeled, and tested in accordance with this part. Again, setting up those barriers. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall not offer or sell any cannabinoid hemp products clearly labeled or advertised for the purpose of smoking, or in a form of cigarettes, cigar, or pre-roll, or packaged, or combined with other items designed to facilitate smoking, such as rolling papers or pipes. Retailers shall have sufficient safeguards in place to verify that the individual presenting or submitting proof of age for an inhalable cannabinoid hemp product or flower product matches the identification and is 21 or older. The interesting thing, though, is that it's for the flower that you're not supposed to smoke, but you still have to be 21 to buy it. I don't know. Like, I mean, I get it, but that was just like, I feel like a nod in regulation that we're saying you can't smoke, you're not supposed to smoke it, but we know that everybody's going to smoke it. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall post visible to consumers any and all signs or posted placards required by the office, including posting of the cannabinoid hemp retail license issued by the office in a conspicuous location at each retail location. Cannabinoid hemp products shall be displayed in a manner that distinguishes them from non-cannabinoid hemp products to aid consumers in locating cannabinoid hemp products and avoid accidental purchase or consumption. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall maintain sufficient records of where the products were purchased from the license period, including the name of the cannabinoid hemp processor, if applicable, and wholesaler or permitted distributor, if applicable. The office may inspect any retail location and take samples to ensure compliance. Advertising. These are big ones because a lot of people do this stuff. An advertisement shall not contain any false or misleading claims or statements. Contain claims that cannabinoid hemp or cannabinoid hemp products can or is intended to diagnose, cure, mitigate, treat, or prevent disease. And that usually will include, particularly for FDA purposes, testimonials. Just because you're not saying it doesn't mean that it's not violating the law. Let's see. Lead a reasonable person to believe that the cannabinoid hemp product is cannabis, marijuana, medical cannabis, or medical marijuana, or that a licensee is authorized to sell or dispense cannabis, marijuana, medical cannabis, or medical marijuana as those terms are defined in the cannabis law or the public health law. Yes, you can't impersonate an adult use retailer, of which there are exactly 0 in this state.
Are you sure? I heard there's a few spots around Rochester that are saying they got the first licenses.
100% sure. We have been waiting quite some time for licensing, and I think we're going to be waiting quite some time for more. Have the purpose or effect of targeting or appealing to anyone under the age of 21 for inhalable cannabinoid hemp products or flower products. Again, that nod to we know what you're doing. The use of images of children or minors consuming the product, and the use of words, a design, or brand that resembles a product that is commonly associated with children or minors or marketed to minors, children or minors, is prohibited. So, I mean, assume that they're going to copy and paste most of that right into the adult use law as well.
Totally.
A New York hemp product. So here's their whole protectionist side. A New York hemp product is a cannabinoid product produced exclusively grown in New York State and processed in New York State by processors that are licensed under this part and that demonstrate compliance with all the requirements enumerated by the office. The office may establish standards and requirements above and beyond those established in this part and use such standards and requirements to certify products as New York hemp product. The office may revoke a cannabinoid hemp product status as certified New York product without a hearing if it has reason to believe that such product no longer meets one or more of the standards or requirements established by the office. No cannabinoid hemp product sold in New York may use the term New York cannabinoid or New York hemp product or hold itself out as being a New York hemp product or approved or certified by the office in any way unless such product has been certified by the office pursuant to the section, in which case cannabinoid hemp product processor and cannabinoid hemp retailer may portray such products as being certified New York hemp product. A violation of this subdivision constitutes grounds for suspension or revocation of license.
Boom. All right, I'll take on general prohibitions here. No licensee shall engage in any activity relating to the processing, packaging, labeling, manufacturing, extracting, distributing, selling, or laboratory testing of cannabinoid hemp extract or cannabinoid hemp that does not comply with the requirements of Article 5 of the Cannabis Law and this part. B, no person shall extract hemp or manufacture cannabinoid hemp products in New York State unless licensed to engage in such activity or otherwise authorized by the United States Food and Drug Administration. C, hemp extract shall be manufactured into cannabinoid hemp product before being offered to retail sale and shall not be distributed or sold directly to consumers within the state. So we're not going to be seeing any hemp dabs anytime soon. No cannabinoid hemp product shall be distributed or offered for retail sale in New York State unless 1, it complies with the processing, packaging, labeling, and testing requirements pursuant to the previous sections. 2, is sold by a cannabinoid hemp retailer licensed on this part. And E, no person shall transport hemp extract within the state unless 1, it's in a fully enclosed vehicle or container and accompanied by a manifest of proof of ownership documenting the name, physical address, lot or batch numbers, certificate of analysis, and license number of the originating licensed cultivator processor, and the name of the physical address of the recipient of the delivery when transporting between non-adjoining facilities. When hemp extract is being transported to a laboratory for testing, a certificate of analysis is not required. Basically, anytime it's moving, it's got to have documentation. Hemp extract shall not be shipped or transported into New York State unless 1, it's in a fully enclosed vehicle or container, accompanied by proof of origin with hemp cultivation processor license number or equivalent from the jurisdiction of origin, and is accompanied by a COA, certificate of analysis, that shows the hemp extract has a total of delta 9 THC of no more than 0.3%. And no person shall distribute cannabinoid hemp products manufactured out of state to a cannabinoid hemp retailer unless permitted under section 0.18 of this part. So we'll see that coming up soon. Section 15 is cannabinoid hemp processor prohibition. So no cannabinoid hemp processor may transfer a license issued on this part without prior written approval from the office. No cannabinoid hemp processor shall manufacture a cannabinoid hemp product that is potentially hazardous food. No cannabinoid hemp processor may conduct final product testing on its own products. They have to go through third party. No cannabinoid hemp processor may sell cannabinoid hemp products to consumers for final retail sale without first obtaining a retail license. And no cannabinoid hemp processor shall sell hemp extract to anyone in New York State unless such person is licensed as a cannabinoid hemp processor under this part. I'll just do one quick swing at the hemp retailer prohibitions. A, no cannabinoid hemp retailer shall offer or sell cannabinoid hemp products in the forms of inhalable cannabinoid product or flower product to anyone under 21 years of age. No cannabinoid hemp retailer shall sell cannabinoid hemp product that's potentially hazardous food. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall only offer and sell cannabinoid hemp products that meet all of the standards and requirements of these sections 8 through 10 of this part. Cannabinoid hemp retailers shall not offer or sell any cannabinoid hemp product to be added to food or consumable products at point of sale. Jason, you want to take a swing at penalties?
Sure. So, if you fail to comply with any of this stuff, you can get fines up to $1,000 for the first violation, up to $5,000 for the second within 3 years, or up to $10,000 for a third violation and each subsequent violation thereafter within a 3-year period. Where a licensee willfully violates, refuses, or neglects to comply with one or more of these sections, the office may limit, suspend, revoke, or annul a license after providing notice and an opportunity for a hearing to the license. However, a license may be temporarily limited, suspended, revoked, or annulled without a hearing for a period not to exceed 30 days upon notice to the licensee following a finding by the office that the public health, safety, or welfare is in imminent danger. A licensee who negligently violates this part 3 times in a 5-year period shall be ineligible to process or sell cannabinoid hemp for a period of 5 years, beginning on the date of the third violation. The office, for good cause shown, may choose to impose a lesser penalty. Cannabinoid hemp permits. The office may issue cannabinoid hemp permits expressly authorizing a permittee to conduct one or more of the following activities: distribute cannabinoid hemp products manufactured out of state to cannabinoid hemp retailers within New York State. Deliver cannabinoid hemp products from a cannabinoid hemp retailer to consumers. Sell at retail hemp products for a limited duration. Continue operations for persons holding a valid CBD processor research partnership agreement with the Department of Ag and Markets, and any other activity as determined by Cannabis Control Board. Applicants for a cannabinoid hemp permit must apply on a form prescribed by the office, and it's $100 for the application fee. Permits issued to this shall be valid for 1 year, unless shorter as prescribed by the office. The severability just means that if a court holds part of this illegal, whatever, unconstitutional, they will cut that part out, not invalidate the entire law. Incorporation by reference is all just pointing to different areas of the law that they are referencing within the entire document.
Boom. And then we're ending on this. This is our last page here, folks. Thanks for everyone who's still with us. Effective date. The provisions of this part are effective upon publication of the state register, provided, however, that sections 0.9 and 0.10 shall not become effective until April 25th of 2021.
Not that that was an issue.
Yep. Notwithstanding subdivision A of the section, a licensed cannabinoid hemp retailer may continue to possess, transport, and sell cannabinoid hemp products in the retailer's inventory before the effective date of this part, unless the cannabinoid hemp product is, one, unsafe for consumption based on the presence of quality of heavy metals, pesticides, etc., has a delta 9 concentration of more than 0.3%, is a flower product. Notice they don't say 0.3% or a total, which is interesting. A flower product clearly labeled for smoking, or in the form of cigarette, cigar, pre-roll, etc., or contains or was manufactured with delta 8 or delta 10 THC created through isomerization. So that you have it there, folks.
And so there is no argument as of right now, because I'm pretty sure those have been published, that delta 8, delta 10 cannot sell with a hemp retail license. And everybody selling hemp extract products needs to have a hemp retail license. There's this whole interim period where the draft regs and things like that. Now, it's official. So it's a whole new world.
It is a whole new world, folks. We got a bunch of people on the call. Has anyone got any questions, concerns, feedback? Definitely welcome it here. It's a lot. Some of us have read through that more than once, and nothing jarring. But again, this is the foundation for whatever's to come in the pipeline. And the reality is, we're not going to see any other licensing for another year if we're lucky. And so this is what is legal to work with and operate within today, and it definitely informs what's coming down the pipeline. Things you do not like in this that may manifest itself in the adult use and the regs, like, figure it out. What would you have changed? Who in your community can you advocate against or for? This is the platform that we can begin to then identify how to navigate the regs, the proposed regs, the comment period, et cetera, for adult use. Cool.
You have a question?
I do.
No, a clarification. Zach, not you, says, just to be clear, CBD pre-rolls will be illegal to sell under these regs. They are illegal to sell, not will be.
Under these regs.
You can't sell it as smokable. You can sell the flower, and maybe you can sell rolling papers, not as a package. Don't know yet how far apart they have to be, but
can't sell it as smokable.
So Steve, do you know when we can expect the OCM to respond to the public comments made by the proposed hemp regs? I think they already did that, didn't they?
Yeah, the comment period's closed. These are final. So until Tremaine Wright, the chair of the CCB, did say that they're going to have some further additional regulations, like they're going to change that 75 to 100 milligrams. And I forget, there might've been a couple others. You'll get a public comment period on those, but the public comment period is closed. That doesn't mean you can't send comments to the office. And so I think, they have an info@ocm.ny.gov that you could always send comments to and say, hey, I think this really is something that needs to be of concern that needs to be addressed. So you can do that, but the official public comment period for regs, for these regs, is closed.
And there was a question from Anthony regarding he filed for a retail license for CBD many moons ago, never heard back. essentially the way that the program works is if you registered, you qualify as having an interim license until further notice. So I also had the same experience where I didn't really get anything besides saying, there was an email saying like, you've applied, consider that your temporary license. I'm sure they'll be following up soon.
Yeah, part of the reason for that was like as soon as you applied, you basically said, I am in compliance with the hemp regs. So, and you could actually do that before they were finalized. So that was kind of New York State's way to move everybody into compliance with the, at the time, proposed regs and say, okay, you know, you're certifying to us that you're in compliance with those, even though they're not technically finalized. So, you know, we'll let you engage in this activity.
So Aya asks, are there any competent cannabis attorneys in our immediate Finger Lakes area that can help those in the industry navigate through these regulations? Hey, Jason. But yeah, Jason's been such a huge, you know, I met Jason through his work helping with startups and businesses. I was referred to him because he works with small businesses, small clients. He's obviously moved a bunch in his career of recent, but yeah, great reference point, and definitely would recommend working with him. And also, I'm sure there are at least a couple other folks he could point you towards if he's not the guy. And yeah, feel free to, Jason, if you want to put your contact information in the chat, maybe that's a good start for folks as well.
Yep, I'll do that.
Cool. Any last call for questions here? So this recording will absolutely be posted. We'll share it. We'll send it to all the registrants. We'll put it on YouTube. So feel free to share it around. Again, we did this so we can make sure everyone has a level playing field and interpreting, understanding. And there's just something about having a conversation around this document that makes it a lot better than just reading it yourself, because it's kind of challenging to operate in a vacuum and really have a clear idea of what's going on. So Jason, big thanks and shout out to you for all your support this year through this read through this series. And yeah, happy and grateful for everyone who's on this call and folks who are watching this recording. Stay in touch, and we have some exciting news in the pipeline for HempLab. We'll be announcing pretty soon. Stay tuned.
Thank you.